It's only the first month of the new year and already the radicalised far-left ethno propagandists are at it again. Credit where it's due, they've made a strong start. The following load of bollocks has everything from buzzwords that describe things that don't exist through to the usual disproven inference that we imprison people because of their ethnicity and not at all because they're recidivist criminal offenders. Let me introduce the author of this latest blatant pack of lies and misinformation, Maori Party propagandist Tureiti Moxon. Moxon is the chairwoman of what's known as the National Urban Maori Authority, which isn't an authority at all, it's just another one of those grifting trusts that divert taxpayer money to the Maori ethno victimhood group. Moxon uses the title lady, which she shirt tails off her European husband, who was knighted for services to religion on the recommendation of, yes, you guessed it, the Ardern neo-Marxist regime. Once again, the radical left clarion the Herald has published this propaganda, and once again it has refused to open this racist claptrap up for comments, for obvious reasons. It is, of course, as much my civic duty to unravel this latest ethnocentric racist diatribe as it is yours to watch me do so and be informed of who's taking the piss. Let's take it from the top. Moxon starts out with this.
The proposed Regulatory Standards Bill, currently under consideration by the Ministry for Regulation, poses a dangerous direct threat to Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the rights of Maori.
There are a couple of problems with the opening hypothesis. The first is that the Regulatory Standards Bill is not a threat to the Treaty of Waitangi. There is no evidence of any threat to the treaty at all. The bill does not mention the treaty, not even once. The two are completely unconnected. And Moxon doesn't say anywhere in her article what the threat is that she's on about. The second problem is that a person does not derive any rights at all from identifying with Maori ethnicity. There's no such thing as Maori rights. What this opening statement tells me is that Moxon acquired a law degree and claims recognition as an ethno-specialist without apparently learning that the parties to the Treaty of Waitangi were the Crown and the pre-1840 native inhabitants of New Zealand. An ethnic identity is not a party to the treaty. There are no rights derived by any ethnic identity from the treaty. No victimhood points are available because of ethnic identity. Moxon's Maoriness entitles her to nothing more than her husband's Englishness entitles him. It's only when we understand and are informed by the fact that the treaty protects the rights of native inhabitants that we can understand that guaranteed treaty rights are in fact human rights rather than ethnic rights. And these are in fact human rights that we all have in common in an equal measure, and where those guaranteed rights are in fact protected, which is not the Treaty of Waitangi. Moxon's legal studies apparently didn't include Magna Carta. She then says this.
This is about the privileged wanting to maintain their hold on power and control, the continuation of that system of domination, suppression, exploitation, and assimilation we know as colonialism.
So in Moxon's worldview, settlers coming here, building the schools that she learned to read and write in, building the hospitals where she gave birth to her 4 kids, and the universities that she studied at, bringing all the benefits and trappings of a modern Western democracy, providing a welfare system for her cousins, and increasing her life expectancy by an additional 50 years. This is domination, suppression, and exploitation. She maintains this view while remaining married to a white settler and having 4 kids with him. Next, Moxon portrays her radical left credentials with a classic piece of gaslighting. How this works is it starts with an appeal to her own authority, always an alarm bell. She then projects her own racism onto the legislation. Her game is to make you simply accept without question that she's telling the truth, even though you sense something's not quite right here. This is what she said.
As someone who has spent decades advocating for Maori health, education, and justice, I cannot remain silent while such a regressive and covert racist piece of legislation is considered.
However, if we look at the bill, it does not contain the word Maori, race, or ethnicity. Therefore, the bill does not discriminate on the basis of race in any regard at all. Therefore, it's not racist. Therefore, Moxon's claim is false. She then says this.
This bill seeks to establish principles for creating laws and regulations in New Zealand, an act that impacts the legislative framework, lawmaking, and governance, yet it fails to honour Te Tiriti. Instead, it flagrantly promotes a flawed concept of equality, ignoring the systemic inequities Maori face daily. They are completely different concepts.
So now Moxon is really veering hard left, and what this is telling us is that Moxon assumes that the Treaty of Waitangi can only be honoured if we top up the accounts of Maoris with the earnings of white people, so our respective bank balances are the same. So this means for her, the treaty cannot be honoured in a democratic capitalist system of government that offers equality. It must instead be a system of equity where everyone gets the same outcome, in other words, communism. In Moxon's view, we would have to have a communist system of government for it to be even possible to honour the Treaty of Waitangi. The problem with that view, though, is pretty obvious. The British Crown is not and has never been communist. The treaty offers the fractional descendants of pre-1840 native a democratic capitalist system of governance. That is a system on which Magna Carta requires equality, not equity. In fact, Moxon's position is completely at odds with the constitutional framework founded by the Treaty of Waitangi. Under Moxon's proposed communist ethno-equity system, the treaty could not be honoured because the proposed system is not the Queen's governance guaranteed by the treaty. The Queen's governance is the Westminster system of governance. And that system is a democratic capitalist system. Under Moxon's proposed ethno-equity system, Maori people could never be permitted to get ahead of Europeans and are strictly limited by European achievements. Therefore, Moxon's proposed ethno-equity system would breach the treaty's guarantee of the British subjects' right to personal autonomy. The well-pedalled and flawed logic behind Moxon's proposed communist system are the usual tropes: poor health outcomes, poor education outcomes, and overrepresentation in the prison population. All these tropes have the same inherent flaw. They all selectively use European people as a yardstick for measuring Maori ethnicity victimhood status, while completely ignoring the reality that the European way of doing things is not the Maori way of doing things. In other words, Europeans do not practice tribal tikanga. Let's deal with the poor health outcomes illusion first. The fractional descendants of pre-1840 natives now enjoy an extra 50 years of life expectancy. By comparison, in the same time, Europeans have only gained 25 years. How's that a poor health outcome? If you're using me as your yardstick, Moxon, and want equity, then where's my extra 25 years? According to another far-left Maori commentator, Lisa Timorenga, bad health for Maori people is because they smoke, drink and eat KFC. So according to Moxon's ideology, we white people should pay more so that Maori people can keep boozing, smoking and gorging themselves on fried chicken. What's wrong with that picture? Moxon's claim that the education system fails Maori kids simply defies logic. You can't tell me that Maori kids are the only ethnicity in the world that are incapable of sitting in a classroom and learning core educational subjects. It's not the education system that fails Maori kids, it's their parents. It's the missing fathers, it's the ones that fail to get their kids to school, and it's the elite Maori racists like Moxon who indoctrinate their kids into an ethno-victimhood group where they're taught from the get-go that school is racist and their own country is against them. In New Zealand schools, there are students from almost every ethnicity in the world, and they all generally keep up. Maori kids born overseas attend almost identical education systems, and yet they don't have inequitable outcomes. A poor education outcome is not an education system problem. Overrepresentation in the criminal justice system is not because of anything other than criminal offending. No one's claiming that the criminal justice system is sexist because men are overrepresented by comparison to women. The truth is that the criminal justice system is overrepresented by only one identity group, and that would be criminals. No one forced Simon Kiriopa to drag his naked girlfriend outside and pour boiling water over her. Maori people were committing acts that would attract hefty prison sentences well before 1840. How about the killing and eating of 70 people from the Boyd in 1809? Maori people didn't suddenly adopt tikanga when Europeans arrived. They've had tikanga since forever. And what Moxon fails to address is how we lower the imprisonment rate of Tāne Māori without increasing the poor health outcomes of wahine and tamariki Maori. If we don't protect wahine and tamariki Maori from tikanga, that will be a breach of the treaty which guarantees protection. You can't have it both ways, Moxon. We can't stop violent Maori men from pouring boiling water on their naked partners or killing their children without locking them up to prevent them from doing so. If we don't lock up violent Maori men, that will exacerbate the inequity of poor health outcomes for wahine and tamariki Maori. So what Moxon argues for worsens an inequity that she should also vehemently oppose. Not only are Moxon's desperate tropes debunked, they also overlook that in a system of equality promoted by the bill, equity is self-determined. Equity is what you get for self-determined effort in a system of equality. Self-determination is one of the rights that Maori claim to have, and self-determination is not possible in a system that requires equity. An equity system determines for you what your outcomes will be, and that you will do no better or worse than anyone else in the system. By comparison, the equality system leaves you in charge of your equity. If you work harder and put in more effort, you can achieve equity or inequity with your neighbour. So what Moxon argues for is inherently at odds with Maori demands for the right to run their own lives and choose to soar higher than Europeans, or alternatively smoke, drink, eat KFC and die young if that's what they want to do. Moxon's ideology is inherently at odds with honouring the treaty in regard to providing a particular type of governance, a capitalist democracy, and it's at odds with protecting Maori people from criminal offenders, especially wahine and tamariki. Moxon's ideology incorrectly presupposes that human rights are derived from ethnicity. In my view, Moxon's opinion piece is inherently contradictory. To be honest, I felt quite ill reading this delusional racism. That anyone can pass a law degree and have this kind of irrational and nonsensical reasoning is breathtaking. I'm really wondering if there's been a post-graduation head injury or neurological illness. The fact that she makes no sense makes no sense. What do you think? Please leave a comment, say hello to Tureiti Moxon and let her know what you think of her proposed communist ethno-equity system. There's a link in the description below to the full Herald article. I warn you though, it's a pretty sickening read. If you've not already done so, please sign the petition to have the New Zealand Solicitor General replaced with someone who is ideologically compatible. There's also a link to that in the description. As always, I enjoy reading your comments and do appreciate them. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to be notified of new content as it drops. See you next time.